Call the meeting to order, please. As chairman of the select board, due to the COVID-19 coronavirus crisis and in accordance with Governor Sununu's emergency order number 12 pursuant to the executive order 2020-04, this board is meeting electronically utilizing the Zoom platform. We previously gave notice to the public of how to access this meeting using Zoom, and instructions are provided on the Town of Lee's website at leenh.org. If anyone has a problem with access, please call 603-659-5414, extension 312. Please note, all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. We'll start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Selectman Bugby.
Here and alone.
Select person Casper.
Here and alone.
Selectman Brown, here and alone. Let's start with public comment. Public comment, which this is really going to be our first time opening up public comment through Zoom, is intended to allow members of the public to speak to the select board on subjects that are not included on the agenda. Please use the raise hand feature and wait to be recognized and unmuted. You will have 3 minutes to speak. If you are using a telephone to connect to the meeting, please press *9 to raise your hand and wait to be recognized. Press *6 to unmute yourself. And I would like to say that I would ask everyone to adhere to that 3 minutes as much as possible. We have a pretty heavy agenda today and a lot to get through. Thank you very much. Let's start. Let's see, Karen Rossi, Planning and Zoning Administrator.
Good evening. So my first item that I'd like to talk with is the Lee Fair Committee charge, as it currently is, states that each member will get sworn in every year. So I would like to request that the charge be changed to a 3-year term instead of a 1-year term. By the time we start the fair in the spring, get everybody's appointments, it's June-ish, and then the committee's over in November. So if we could do a 3-year charge, that will just make things a lot easier. So that is my request, please, for this section. So currently the terms are for 1 year. We'd like to make them for 3 years instead of 1.
Okay, any comments, questions? In that case, I'll enter a motion, move to approve amending the Lee Fair Committee charge to state that the length of membership term for an appointed position shall be 3 years, effective immediately.
Second.
Can I get a second, please?
Second.
I have not heard anything.
Scott said he seconded.
Okay, I can't hear Scott for some reason. Roll call vote. Scott Bugby, Selectman Bugby.
Yes.
Thank you. Selectman, select person Casper.
Yes.
Selectman Brown, yes. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. And then the next item is the current copier that we have is lease is up, and it's actually was up a little while ago, and thankfully, and I very much appreciate, Ms. Glover did the numbers for me, and it's actually cheaper to enter into a 60-month contract for a $99 a month all-included copier than to buy out our old copier with a service agreement. Because by the time you buy the old copier, you pay a service agreement, and then you pay so much per copy. It was actually more money than to get a new one with an all-inclusive $99 a month payment. This is not a big fancy copier like we have now. we're going to use the one in the copier room that the selectman's office has. This is it's not a tabletop, but it's similar to a tabletop that has the scanning ability that we'll have right in our office. Then if we do a bigger job, we'll go down the hall and to the selectman's office and use that copier. I have money for this in my budget. Actually, my budget has a little bit more than what I need, so I'll be able to reduce that line item in the next fiscal year. So I just would like approval. And this is pending approval by the town's attorney for the lease.
Questions, comments?
Karen, how much is it just to buy it?
$550, I think it's like $5,900, which I do not have in my budget.
I understand that. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone? In that case, I enter a motion, move to authorize the town administrator to execute a 60-month, $99 per month lease agreement with LEAF, pending town attorney review and approval for a Brother MFP commercial photocopier from Connecticut Office Technologies to be located in the Planning and Zoning Building Inspection Department.
I second that motion.
Can I get a second, please?
You got
I'll
it from
second
Katrin.
I didn't hear it. I'm sorry.
And as long as it's from Connected Office Technologies,
And not Connecticut. Got it.
not Connecticut.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
All right, so let's see, where were we? Roll call vote, Selectman Bugby,
Yes.
Select Person Casper,
Yes.
Selectman Brown, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. I'm going to be signing off too. I have company.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you.
Me
Bye.
too.
We move now to number 3 on the agenda. I'm sorry, number 4 on the agenda, Ann Tappan, Conservation Commission, Emerald Ash Borer.
Good evening. Ann Tappan. I'm representing the Conservation Commission and would like to start with a few comments about emerald ash borer in Lee. Emerald ash borer was first detected in Concord, New Hampshire in 2013. It was first reported in Lee in 2020. In March of 2020, we held an EAB public information workshop that was co-sponsored by the Lee Conservation Commission and UNH Cooperative Extension. A year later, March 2021, a public EAB field workshop was co-sponsored by the Conservation Commission and UNH Cooperative Extension. It took place in the Lee Town Forest. Later in March, commission members met with UNH researchers to discuss a possible EAB research study in the town forest. In April, the commission met to discuss the EAB study. Because emerald ash borer is already present in the area and will certainly kill the ash trees in the study area, and because this research may further knowledge as to how to combat the spread of EAB, members of the commission supported the proposal. A roll call vote was taken. There was unanimous approval. Also in April, information about the study was sent to the Society for Protection of New Hampshire Forests, which holds the conservation easement for the town forest. We have received approval from SPNIF. They stated that there is no issue with this project in the conservation deed for the Lee Town Forest. Emerald ash borer infested trees have been reported from many locations in town, including the Lee Town Forest, Maud Jones Memorial Forest, Cartland Road, Stepping Stones Road, and Little Hook Road. EAB is likely present in other locations in town, both on town land and private land. Doctors Todd Johnson and Jeff Garnis from the UNH Department of Natural Resources and Environment are here to briefly describe the study and answer any questions you might have.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Todd Johnson. Dr. Jeff Garnis is here as well. Just to give you a little bit of an overview of our study, our proposed research in the Towneley Forest is part of an ongoing USDA-funded project to better understand the emerald ash borer and further our management of the beetle, particularly within trees of different sizes, which currently is something that we know less about than we would like. As part of this project, we will be cutting trees down as well as introducing biological control agents, which have been released both within the state of New Hampshire as well as throughout the United States. We view this project as a low risk for the Towneley Forest, particularly because, as Anne mentioned, emerald ash borer is already in the forest and within the surrounding regions, such as the town of Durham, Newmarket, etc. And as part of our project, releasing introduced biological control agents right now is currently viewed as the best option for management of the emerald ash borer. And so while they are part of our experimental design, when we cut trees down, those wasps that are beneficial will continue to exist in the region and hopefully begin to attack and build populations on the emerald ash borer in the region. Further, the trees that we'll be removing, as Anne stated, if left alone, will very likely die. And by removing those trees, we're not only removing a source for the population to grow and spread to surrounding areas, but we're also going to be removing trees that could become hazards within the forest. As these trees die, you know, a standing dead tree can fall at any time, and having trees that might be in areas that could damage people or property removed, we see as a benefit to the town. Lastly, this project requires extensive permitting. So we've already been vetted both by the US government as well as the state of New Hampshire. We have to receive permits to work with the beetle and receive it from the rearing facility in Michigan, as well as the 2 species of introduced wasps we're working with, as well as to work with emerald ash borer within the state. We have to apply for, and we've received what is known as a variance permit from the state entomologist, where they review our study, confirm that it's useful and safe, and then provide approval, which we have received for the first 2 years of our project. And then at the conclusion of our project, we have to show due diligence to the state to prove that we indeed removed all of the trees that we infested with artificially infested with the emerald ash borer. So altogether, we view this as a useful project to better understand what the forest is going to look like after EAB comes through. When EAB is in the forest, they tend to kill a lot of the larger trees first, which is why we don't know a lot about the smaller diameter trees. And so we're hoping that with projects like this, we're going to have a sense of how the trees can defend themselves when we're looking at smaller diameter trees, as well as how the introduced biological control agents can contribute towards suppressing the populations of emerald ash borer to hopefully protect these smaller trees in the future. And we're happy to answer any additional questions beyond the materials we've submitted. And thank you for considering this project, and especially thank you to Anne, who has spent a lot of time with me in the field, as well as chatting with me about this project.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments?
I have 2 questions for the doctors, if I could.
Sure.
Okay.
The first one, and whichever one of you wants to answer, can you go through the process and how these parasitic wasps attack the emerald ash borer's larva? And the last question is, and it's probably easier of the 2, when you get done finishing your study, can you share the results with the town?
I think I can let you take those questions, but we have a history of sharing results with other conservation and commissions and towns as we've moved. We've started this project in Concord in 2016 and been moving along with the infestation as it's spread to the east. So we've done this before, and we're absolutely happy to share results. But Todd, why don't you take the question about the parasitoids?
Yeah, so these parasitic wasps, and when I say wasps, we're not talking about yellow jackets. They're very small, minute things, and a lot of them are really host specific. Prior to their release in the United States, the USDA did a whole bunch of host specificity testing to make sure that they only attack the emerald ash borer, and they can only really attack and develop on that beetle. But the way they find it in the woods is a lot of the wasps tend to smell the odors of trees. And a stressed out tree that has been infested with emerald ash borer smells differently to the wasps than a healthy tree. And so that allows them to locate the tree. And then once they're on the tree, the vibrations created by emerald ash borer as it's feeding are unique to that beetle because its mouth and its body size are different from that of other insects. And so once the wasps locate the beetle in the tree, they then take their ovipositor, which is what they lay their eggs through, and they stick it through the bark of the tree, and they lay their eggs either right on the body of the beetle or adjacent to it in the tunnels that the beetles create called galleries. And by doing that, you know, they're able to find the beetle really rapidly. We have seen quite a large amount of parasitism in some of the field sites that we've worked at. And so while we're releasing these parasitoids to look at the impact of the tree size and species on parasitism of the beetle, you know, they're not constrained to our experiment whatsoever. They fly around. And so if there's any other emerald ash borer in trees in the Townley Forest or within the region that they can fly, hopefully they're going to go and attack those beetles too and begin to build up populations to slowly attack the emerald ash borer and suppress the population in the area.
So when they inject their eggs and they find the larvae, what do these eggs do? Do they like eat the larvae? What do they do to the larvae to kill it?
Yeah, it's exactly like that. So like the eggs are either on the body or inside. They hatch. And then if they're inside, it's almost like an Alien, the movie Alien. They chew their way out, and then the beetle dies. And the really great thing about the wasp for us, maybe not the beetle, is that when they do this, you can get sometimes up to 80 or 90 individuals per beetle. So the wasps, even though there's a lot of emerald ash borer and it takes time for them to build populations, over time, they can quickly outpace the beetle and begin to, you know, lay, you know, 10 times the number of wasps versus the beetles. And so if they're on the body, they just hatch and they just slowly consume it. We'll, at the end of the project, when we cut the trees down, we scrape the bark down to the galleries so we can look at the tunnels where the beetle is. And sometimes the only thing that you'll find left over is the head capsule, which is the hardened part of the mandibles. And it's like just this little tiny triangle with a mouth part, and the entire beetle is gone. And then all you see is a whole bunch of eggs where the wasp just completely consumed it. It's really incredible to see.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
I have a I'm sorry. Go ahead, Catherine.
No, that's fine. I was just asked, so is that a supply and demand type thing where if we, you know, as they increase, they can eat more of the emerald ash borer, but as that number, hopefully one day, wouldn't that be great, gets under control, then that wasp will start to diminish because that's a species specific, so it won't become a long-term problem.
Yeah, the ultimate goal would be to suppress EAB populations, but they'll always be present in the forest as long as there's ash hosts. We're not going to get rid of them this way, but ideally the wasps would suppress the populations down to a relatively low level and they would cycle at just lower abundances together. Exactly. So of course there's spatial dynamics where, you know, the one or the other might go locally extinct in a little patch where ash becomes unavailable, but then as ash grows in, they should be able to colonize from the neighboring areas. So that's the idea, is to establish a new, what we would call an endemic equilibrium where beetles are lower. We'll see if it all works. I mean, there's challenges, but that's our best hope at the moment.
Great.
In your the requested actions and so on, it says a total of 44 ash trees will be cut. That's at the end of the, I take it, at the end of the program. How many will be infested? I mean, it states, if maybe I read it wrong.
44 of those trees will be infested.
All infested trees will be cut and removed. That's per the variance permit that we have through the state. We are very careful not to introduce a single emerald ash borer. That the reason we're able to do this is because the developmental cycle is a full year. So if we introduce emerald ash borer eggs in May or early June, and then we cut the trees in October, it's virtually impossible. In fact, it is impossible for them to develop all the way through their life cycle and emerge as adults in that time period. They would need to spend the winter in the trees and then even develop a little bit more the next season in order to emerge as adults. So as long as we cut all of the trees we infest, all 44 of those trees, there's no risk of introducing additional beetles to the local area. The rest of the trees are control trees of various kinds, where we're painting them with this chemical called methyl jasmonate, where we're going to look at the chemical response to try to understand some of the tree chemistry. But those are controls uninfested by the beetles that will leave behind.
Okay. Anybody? Any other questions,
All
comments?
set.
All right. So we're after to permit researchers from UNH Department of Natural Resources. This isn't written as a motion anyway. And the environment to conduct research in the town forest on up to 68 small diameter ash trees in accordance with the variance agreement with the state of New Hampshire. At the conclusion of the study in the fall of 2021, every experimental ash tree that was artificially infested with the ash borer will be cut. In total, 44 ash trees will be cut. Do we have any more comments or questions for that? Then I'll enter a simple motion to permit the researchers of UNH Department of Natural Resources and the Environment to conduct this research on the town forest as stated. Can I get a second?
I will second that motion. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Awesome.
Okay. Let's see, where am I?
Vote.
All in favor? Scott, Selectman
Yes.
Bugby,
Yes.
Selectman Casper,
Yes.
Casper,
you.
Selectman Brown, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you very much for your time, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
This is
Yeah.
exciting to
Thank
be
you.
part of something that could make a difference down the road. So thank you for bringing this to us.
Thank you.
We're excited to start. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Thank-
Item 5, Annie Gazowski.
Yes, I'm here. Tonight, we wanted to get the approval for the North Point Engineering Company to do the civil engineering for the library project. And they did file a revised proposal, and that came to all of you. And hopefully, everything there is now written down, everything that we feel needs to be done with this project that they'll be involved with. So there were some changes made, and as a result, we're happy with that fact that they are very upfront, very involved, very knowledgeable, and we're anxious to work with them.
Okay. Any questions, any comments? I'll enter a motion.
I have a couple of questions. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's some questions from the audience.
Yeah. Let's let them ask first.
Okay.
I think it's either Ann Tappan or John Tappan. Ann Tappan.
It's labeled Ann, but it's John.
Okay.
We're sharing. I have previously asked the select board if they know what they're buying. When this was first presented, it was $800,000. We've now heard that it's about $600,000. I can read in the minutes that the architect went over a construction schedule, talked with the trustees about what was removed from the project to reduce the cost. But I'm asking you, the board, if you know what it is you're buying, because I've watched the board on item after item agree to spend money on this project. And yet when I've asked in the past if you know what you're buying, you don't. And I say, if you don't know what you're buying, what is in this building, then you shouldn't be spending money on it. You should pause, especially in light of all of the other work, including especially site work, and this is for site work, that's needed at Town Center. So does the board know what it's buying?
The library has said that they're early in the process.
I'm not hearing any answer. I think the board doesn't know what it's buying. And I am not trying to stop the library from having an addition. I think that it is very important that we get the best library that we can for the money that we have available. But if the board is not paying attention to it, then, and if the board is not coordinating this effort with the other efforts that are needed at Town Center, we're not going to get the best that we can, the best and biggest library that we can for the money that we have.
I believe that someone else would like to speak.
Could we do I apologize, I tried to get a laptop, but could we do it with everybody up instead of the,
Oh, get rid of the share?
yeah, I apologize. Sorry, guys. I just can't see anyone.
So you're still using the iPad?
I just spent the last 20 minutes trying to make this laptop work, and the
okay.
sound, I'm getting there. I apologize, but thank you. I just think
That's
it's important
okay.
we can see each other. Thank you. Somebody had their hand up?
Someone who's labeled NHLTA.
Yeah.
That's me. I'm sorry. That's Katrinka.
Hello.
I've been doing, I happen to be a member of the state organization, and I do an awful lot of Zooms with them. And we're coming up and doing a conference, so I've gotten more official of NHLTA. Anyway, that it is I. I just wanted to say that, yes, we are changing out the square footage or to adjust to our budget, because we have a finite amount of money, as Mr. Tappan has pointed out. And the civil engineering is going to be very helpful as we come into the final design phase, which we will make all our final decisions about bathrooms or, the size of even maybe a basement. This is preliminary work. The square footage and design of the building is not, and I've said it before, I will say it again, and I will keep saying it, it's not set in stone. It is a work in progress. We have not gone to the final design stage. A lot of that is going to depend on the amount of money, and we're going to have to do some phases. I think we've been very upfront about that. And if Mr. Tappan would come to some of our meetings, maybe he would find out. But we've shut the floor plan that you have seen most recently is a current floor plan, but it's not set in stone. I don't know how much clearer that we can be about that, but we'll never get to setting it in stone if we don't do some of these preliminary things like the geotechnical borings, which I believe Annie sent the results around. And it turns out the soil is even better than they hoped for a building, which is good news. And they made some, excuse me, some recommendations about you know, drainage. And I mean, these are things that we're all concerned about with the drainage, but we need to have this work done so that we can make our final plans and present them in hearings and to the board. And anyway.
Thank you, Katrinka. I think one of my biggest questions is it looks like a lot of the change in the reason that that's increased in price so much is because they have to go to so many extra meetings because we're having this continuous kind of conflict. And I'm just wondering if there's any chance that we could get together and have a meeting with John Tappan and with the Conservation Commission and with the library trustees and with everyone that is involved, that we might be able to avoid some of those expenses down the road because we get on the same page and stop having different ideas about it. I'm just wondering if that's an option that would save us as a town money, because it feels like some of those meetings or some of those things that they'll have to do is kind of us almost disagreeing with ourselves in the town.
Oh, go ahead.
Can I just comment on this? Kevin Leonard, the principal from North Point Engineering, had an extended conversation with Karen Rossi and completely understands that that we have to go through all the steps. We aren't exempt, and we're going through the ordinances just as had happened in 1996, whenever the last addition was put on to the building. So we realize that this must be done, and that's one of the reasons that the North Point Engineering proposal was increased. But we realize that not all of those meetings may happen, but we have in the proposal now, we have the worst case scenario of the most meetings that could happen.
Okay. And did we get it? I mean, I know that I think it's been easier to work with North Point for you. Is there have we had a chance to get a second, with that change and all the information that's changed, a second proposal from the other company? I'm forgetting the name.
No, actually, we didn't get another one from Jones and Beach because we felt that North Point, whenever we did have the two side by side, we felt that North Point was much more detailed. Jones and Beach was very vague in all of the things that they said that they would be giving us. There was no final draft, final plan given. So there were things that were brought to our attention that should be done, and that North Point has taken care of all those in their estimate.
I believe Mr. Tappan would like to speak again.
Yes, it was just suggested that if I went to the library meeting, then I would know what was going on there. I would be happy to go to the meetings. But I was not trying to argue with the library. I am trying to argue as hard as I can with this select board that the select board needs to know what it is buying. I believe that the library trustees have the responsibility to get the best library that they can, but their responsibility is oriented primary to the library and the function of that building as they see it. A select board has a responsibility to the town for all of the buildings to make sure that the facilities that are in those buildings, the equipment that's in those buildings, the coordination with other plans is in the best interest of the town so that the town achieves the best library that it can for the money. And with what should be the focus of the select board, looking from the town's perspective, there may be features that should be in the building or that should be considered, or maybe things in the building that don't have to be there from the town's perspective that the select board should be paying attention to. I'm not talking about focused on detailed engineering drawings. I'm talking much more about big picture. But a fundamental 101 of construction cost management is make your changes before you spend big money. Make your changes as early as possible. And I keep hearing we need to spend more money before we're able to make the changes. And we'll make the changes after we've spent the money. And that's going about it the wrong way. And the select board should not be doing that.
I don't think there's any argument with what you said, John. I think in the past, we've relied on the committees to give us the information required to make a good decision. And in most cases, it's worked out. So I'm certainly not arguing with what you just said. And if you want to get in the mix and look at what the proposal is, look at what the drawings are going to be, I'm sure that the library would be receptive to that. I'm certainly receptive to that. We have more building to do. You know that. There's more coming down. I'll ask the same questions of that committee that you're asking now. How do we know what we're getting? Where's the detail? So, and that even applies to our next subject. So, you're absolutely right. But from a committee point of view, we start off with enough confidence in the committee that we're going to get good, solid, valid information. They're going to manage the project, even though they specifically might not have the abilities. They will get people involved in the project that have that and that can answer the questions.
So I'm hearing that you would prefer not to take your responsibility personally, and you will just trust that someone else is going to do it. You were presented with a drawing that showed what was going to be built in December, and at that time the cost was $800,000. As far as I know, you have not seen a new drawing. You haven't seen what the change of scope is, but now it's $600,000. The board is not really paying attention.
Well, your supposition right there is we're not going to see this, we're not going to do this, and therefore you guys, you're not paying attention. I say you're wrong. Okay, that's all I can do. I say you're wrong. We will be involved. We will see the detail. We have not said yes, go forth and multiply. So we've just got into getting this estimate.
So if you just say this is an estimate, we take that under advisement, but we're not going to approve paying for it yet until we learn what's planned to be in the building, that's fine. But if tonight you approve spending another $18,000 without any more knowledge, without knowing anything about the changes that have been made, then you are spending the town's money irresponsibly.
I want to say something I think John is speaking to that I think is important to acknowledge. We as a town have spent, as far as I know, over $350,000 on architectural designs and plans that we have not used. And I think it's reasonable for John to ask for us to make sure that we don't continue to spend money on things we don't plan to go forward. I also think it's reasonable for the library to want to move forward with the project and to get as much done as physically possible, considering that all of these things take time. So I'm suggesting that we do something really soon where these concerns you have, John, are addressed, and my concerns about paying for something, that we don't, to understand. I don't want to have to, if the Conservation Commission and the, other people can come together and agree to some things so that we don't have to pay for extra meetings and that saves money, that makes sense if we can do that in an hour. And so to me, I think it's worth it to get all this stuff on the table and then let's move this forward. And, and that means we have to understand what the whole town is doing. And I think the library's been really great about listening to the ideas that the town has and to, to understanding that things need to move at different levels. I think we just need to be open to the understanding that they also want to move forward and to do that the best we can.
I mean, I don't know if you can hear me. If I can just say one thing, the work that we want to do, the geotechnical borings that we did do and the civil engineering, this, whatever the library ends up looking like, or how big or how small it is, this work needs to be done.
Right.
This is going to inform us and the town on our final recommendations for the building. Drainage plans, roof lines, the whole 9 yards. And the longer we take, the smaller the building is going to be, because lumber prices are going up. It's hard to get work done. We've already taken 6 weeks to get this far on approving the civil engineering. We had hoped originally maybe if everything went well to break ground this fall. I don't see that happening, quite frankly. Anyway, this is work that has to be done regardless of the end result. And we have kept everybody informed, so thank you.
I ask some questions now.
Sure.
All right, and I'm not sure who can answer this better, if it's Annie or Katrinka, but I'm on page 2 of their proposal, scope of services. One of the things they talk about, it says they have anticipate no more than 2 meetings with the library trustees and the design firm. In terms of the experience that I've had in terms of working on multiple of these committees, 2 meetings is nothing. You're going to go over that big time, which kind of goes to the point that Katrin was making earlier in terms of, I think we need to get together and understand what it is that we're getting and what it is we're not getting. I think some of the other things, if we move down the list in terms of the meeting with the Conservation Commission, they talk about 1 meeting and 1 on-site walk. I think you're going to need more of that. I think the Conservation Commission, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but they're going to have problems with the designs that currently is. So I think we need to meet with all the parties, understand what we want, what we can afford, because one of the things that I think Katrinka just mentioned in terms of prices are gone up. I was talking to Steve Bullock, and he just bought some sheets of 4x8 plywood, and they're $60 a sheet. Before COVID, it was in the 20s. So materials have gone up significantly. When are they coming down? I have no idea. But the library trustees started with 800,000 down to 6. Maybe they're getting a building for half the size for the same 600,000. So I think those are things we need to take into advisement. And I think in terms of, I don't know where they got these numbers in terms of meeting with the land use boards, but if that's something that Karen Rossi thinks is doable, I think that's fine. But I kind of agree with Katrin. We need to meet as a group and talk about these particular things, what is acceptable, what's not, before we start hiring somebody that comes in and starts charging us whatever it is, an hourly rate. Well, we sit there and, discuss what we need to do. That's not a very good use of town money. And that's all I have to say at the moment.
I just want to make sure that we also I do respect and understand that the library wants to move as quickly as possible. And I do agree that, we should do this. Like they said, they've been waiting for 6 weeks. I think we were talking about this since I started as a select person. I do want to move forward and get it done. So I don't know if we could set up an appointment, a meeting, right now, or what we need to do to make sure or make sure that's on the schedule for really soon.
The library trustees are certainly agreeable to meeting with the select board and anyone else that wants to come, and we can discuss all of these things before we hire, do the final drawing, and before we hire engineering, or before we hire get the final plan from SMP. All of these things are kind of hanging in balance here, and we're trying to move it along. So
if we make it a select board meeting, can we vote at that meeting? So they wouldn't have to wait to the next select board meeting?
If you have a meeting with the select board, that's the select board meeting. It doesn't have to be, it can be a special meeting.
But I mean, so we wouldn't have to, yeah, but I mean, just mean so that the understanding is we could have this conversation and if it's possible to
Yep.
move quickly and do
Well,
that.
Anytime you get two of us together, it's a select board meeting, it has to be posted and it's an official meeting, so you can
Just trying to
do.
keep the slow down signs, the yield
Well,
signs out of our way.
One of the things that, and I know Mr. Brown's chomped at the bit at this, town government moves very slowly, and you gotta
I
get used to
know.
that. Because
But when
everybody
when
has
we
to be
can speed it
aware.
up, we should.
I understand, but that's one of the things that happens, you know? You want it to go fast, but
Right.
Then-
But we're asking them to slow down for just a pause for a minute here and have this and have a conversation. So I think I
Yeah.
just want to make sure we're doing that respectfully and not wasting their time.
no, that's perfectly fine. I think the sooner you get all those particular parties together and you can determine what it is and what it isn't, then you can engage people to codify whatever that particular, vision or plan is. So I think whatever our next meeting is the 17th. You can do it that night if you want to. I don't know what is on the agenda. Maybe Julie can tell us what's on the agenda for the 17th already. Because this is not going to be, 10
That'd
minutes
be
and we're
quick.
done. So.
No, I think we need to have a chance for the conservation commission to talk. I think the
Yeah.
trustees need to talk. I think anyone else that has opinions about this should get them out so we can
Yep.
get them out and then we can. really move
Conservation Commission meets tomorrow night, so that's perfectly fine. So if you want to set something up the week of the 17th,
17.
I'm gone all next week.
Oh, okay. When, yeah. Maybe we should, I don't know, how do we do this? Find a time that works for everyone.
Can we meet this week?
Well, we have a Wednesday meeting now.
And
You do?
we have a Thursday meeting, but no Friday meeting.
What meeting do we have on Wednesday?
I don't know, it's on the schedule.
Yeah, we have the meeting.
Goals and objectives.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was last week.
No, we're having another one.
Oh, God.
At 4.
Oh, okay, I don't have that on my calendar, so, geez. All right.
The library's having a program that night.
Yeah, I've got that. So when's the other meeting, 4 o'clock?
On the 5th?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, God. Okay, all right.
Um,
I have a calendar just so these kind of things don't happen, but
Sean, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that the Conservation Commission has already also been mentioned, and so it takes some amount of time to get them.
Right.
It's- Again, if it was a quorum of them, then they need to post that meeting.
Absolutely. So I maybe that's something we can just do offline is try to figure out, maybe throw out some dates from everyone that's interested in being there and just, yeah.
May I ask a question? Is this a meeting? Okay, what we were hoping to settle tonight was the civil engineering, which is site work, and to get information about the location so that we can better plan our final building. We're not asking this, we're not asking to take money out of the capital reserve fund for this. We're using library funds. So technically we could go ahead, but we've chosen to try to work with people. If you get the select board meeting, if you get a conservation, if people are voting, it seems to me that you're discussing the entire project, whether to move forward with that. We do plan to meet with the Conservation Committee before going to final drawings to make sure everybody's happy with the direction as well as zoning. So I'm getting confused about the purpose of this meeting. I'm happy to meet, but
It seems like it's not understood here that when you hire North Point, they are going to real fast produce site improvement plans for you. And here's your drawing. You have paid $4,800 for it. And if you want to make changes, you're going to pay some more. It isn't that you're going to ask North Point, what do you think we should do? Once you start paying an architect, you're paying a lot of money and you need to be ready to answer all their questions as soon as they ask them.
But we're hoping for that information from the civil engineering so that we don't have the architect do something that won't work. The final thing is their involvement in the final. It's not that North Point's not going to give us, they're not an architect. They're not going to give us final things. They're going to analyze the site, and
it's not just analyze. They are going to give you the site improvement plan. And then the town is going to figure out that, oh, that's where we need to put the well. So after you do that, then they're going to dig that up again. I mean, when you're paying these costs, you need to have answered all your basic questions. And when I keep hearing that you will, of course, make the changes later, that is just asking for very high cost changes.
John, I really think you're putting a spin on what we have been saying that's really, making it sound different. And maybe we'll, the information we'll get will show you that that's not the best place for a well. Who knows? I mean, because it's even closer to the bog than our addition. So, who knows what that could be. We're going to get information about the site, which I think is useful and will be useful to anybody wanting to do work in that area.
I think one of the things that we need to be clear on, Katrinka, is exactly where this particular addition is going. You've placed it well within the wetlands, 75-foot wetland setback. What if the Conservation Commission says, we're not in favor of that at all. You need to move it out as much as possible, which now changes where you've done your borings, which changes the site plan, which changes all kinds of things. I'd rather do that before we start engaging people than afterwards, because then you're going to change orders. One thing about building is change orders. Building people love change orders because that's where they make money. And I think we need to do as much of that prep work beforehand. So we haven't even met with the Conservation Commission as a group. You guys have had them attend one of your meetings. I don't think they're too gung-ho about you building in the wetland setback. So I think that needs to be cleared up first.
In 1996, the variance was approved and the addition was put on to the existing library. And we feel that things are about the same as that. We still have good soils. The borings that were done show that it's very good for building. And we're expecting and we're hoping that the Conservation Commission is going to agree with it.
And if they don't?
Well, then we will definitely take a step back and reorder.
Well, I'd rather do that in a meeting as Katrin has proposed.
Well, the trustees will be very happy to meet.
So,
But I don't think it should be a part of a regular select board meeting. I think, unfortunately, I think it needs to be a separate meeting.
I would concur.
Can I speak?
Yes.
So a little bit earlier, we were talking about meeting as a group. Prior to that, I believe it was Mr. Bugby pointing out that this North Point proposal had an inadequate amount of meetings. So, and I'm not trying to stop the project, trying to get the best project we can, but it's going to take more than one meeting of the group to come up with some sort of consensus. The first time, I imagine that everyone discusses their understanding of the situation, asks questions, then you need to get answers. And unfortunately, town government or all government works slowly. And then, so then people have to go back and talk together. So it's going to take definitely more than one meeting. And listening to all of this, what comes to mind is the old-fashioned phrase, putting the cart before the horse.
Okay, are we going to schedule the next, this meeting that we're talking about? Does anybody say, okay, here's when we should have it?
No, because I don't think that we can do that without all the parties that need to be involved. So I think we would have to have the Conservation Commission and the trustees and the select board give dates they can do.
Okay, so it's gonna be the Conservation Commission, it's gonna be the library, it's gonna be the select board. Who else?
Should we have the Town Hall Renovation Commission, or at least some members from that are working on the rest of the site issues?
You'll have somebody anyways, but yeah, I would like Karen Rossi there as well.
Yeah,
I think that this may be best done in stages. I mean, just starting out with all the parties on the Zoom at once is maybe a recipe for getting nothing accomplished.
I agree, except for that we keep having these little conversations and we think we get to an agreement, and then we get into a different situation, and then different people have opinions. And I feel like we keep bumping into, you know, this person has this one issue and then that's gonna do, like, I just think we need to all get on the same page around this project.
I would like to suggest that we have a meeting with Conservation Commission and the Select Board, and it could be either the 18th or the 19th of May. And the trustees, I forgot, of course, them. The 18th or 19th of May.
Can
Tuesday.
we make it the 18th?
Pardon me?
Can we make it the 19th, excuse me?
When is the next library trustees meeting?
It's on the 12th, May 12th.
Okay, I can attend then.
Okay, it's at 7 o'clock and we'll be Zooming, of course.
Okay,
Are you saying the 12th or the 18th? What are we talking about?
The library trustees have their regular board meeting on the 12th.
Oh, and John's asking about that particular meeting.
He's going to come to that. If we could meet with the Conservation Commission and the Select Board on the 19th.
Sounds good.
Select Board,
I'm guessing that's a night. I have an all-day conference that day, but I could definitely do night, so I'm guessing
Okay.
that's what it would be anyway, so.
6 p.m.,
3,
It's good to me.
6?
6 p.m. Does that work on the 19th for everyone? Or I guess we still have to ask the Conservation Commission, so.
Yeah,
how many people from the Conservation Commission need to be there to be represented well?
There's 4 is a quorum. 4 is a
So we-
quorum.
So would you need that many to attend this meeting?
If we were going to make any decision, which perhaps we would not, perhaps whoever attends then takes the information back to the full group to discuss, but just 4 is a quorum.
Okay,
Well,
well,
we could do the date no matter what, and then,
Yeah,
That
somebody,
could-
there could be
Okay.
somebody there, whether it's 4, I don't know. We do
Okay.
have,
Just, there's a planning board meeting on the agenda already for the 19th at 7 p.m.
ay.
and
Karen
who-
will have to tell us that's actually gonna happen. Mr. Brown, you have to attend that one, sir?
it's not mandatory that I attend it, no.
Okay, all right. Well,
But
we
you
could-
want Karen at this meeting, and she obviously
Right.
would have to go to the planning board
Yeah,
meeting.
well, we could have her for an hour.
Mm,
Should we do? Yeah, I don't know.
Could we move up the meeting to 5 or 5:30?
I think we could. I don't know, Mr. Bugby, when would you be available?
5:30 probably.
Okay,
So 5:30 on the 19th.
Right, I'll write that down and make sure that we post that because with a quorum, we need to post it also.
So Julie, just a clarification, if we have a quorum from the library trustees, the select board, the THRC, and the Conservation Commission, do we have to post it 4 times?
No.
Just-
It's just one meeting and we'll just say who's going to be at the meeting.
Okay, so,
It'll be
Maybe
a
we
joint, it'll be a joint meeting of the
Okay.
select board, the Conservation Commission, the library trustees.
Can I just suggest that everybody had any issues that you have, the things, the more we have information about them beforehand, the faster the meeting can go. So if you have concerns, like, let's be very specific, let's be very clear, and let's pass that information on to each other so that we're all on the same page and we know what we're talking about. Because I think we don't want surprises. We want to really understand what are the concerns we have as a town, how do we move forward, and how do we know what we're doing.
I like it.
Good to me. Katrin, thank you.
I know we elected you for some reason, Katrin. Now I know why.
That's like almost a compliment, you guys. I'm not sure
No,
what to
that
do
was
with
a
that.
compliment. That
It's very
was.
exciting. Thank you. All right, on to the next. What do we need to do?
There's no action to be taken, I understand.
Very good.
So I think unless anyone else has anything else to say on this subject, we're probably moving on to the next agenda item.
I will contact the Conservation Commission and make sure that they are aware of this and post the meeting. Obviously, the select board is aware of it because they're here. And the trustees will certainly be aware of it. Many of them are attendees to this meeting now.
Thank you.
Well, also Annie, Ann is here and there's a Conservation Commission meeting tomorrow night. So,
Okay, so
and
that'll
I'm
be
attending that too. So we can definitely make sure that
Okay, to
they're
get
aware of it.
the meeting date out to them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have consensus. We're going to move to a new meeting on the 19th,
5:30.
5:30. That's it. We'll move on to item 6, which is the capital improvement funding plan.
Well, we talked about when we met this last 30, we wanted to talk about it again at this particular meeting. So that's our discussion topic.
Well,
We're just discussing if we're going to use this program to look at
Right.
numbers, right?
If you're going to accept it and embrace it and utilize it, it was just a proposal from the THRC. So you don't have to use it. I think it's a tool and we were going to talk about it some more.
okay, and I'm willing to talk about it some more. My first concern is, since I haven't seen it in paper, is it documented at all? How do the people learn to use it? How do we maintain it?
Well, that's one thing that we can talk about.
Okay,
Mr. Chapin has volunteered to be our scribe for a while. I think if we want to explore it, he can probably send, I don't know if we want to send a copy or if we want to send a PDF of the thing or whatever we want to do for people to take a look at.
Can it live on a town file somewhere?
Probably ultimately, yes. That depends on who's going to maintain it. You know,
Right.
I don't think Mr. Chapin wants to do this forever. So I
Nope.
think that's something the town has to embrace at some point. One of the things that Mr. Chapin and I talked about today, because, you know, I was thinking about this and we talked about how does things get rolled over from one year to the next. So we talked about that process. That's something he has to work on. But I think the comments that he made in terms of him staying on to do the scribing for us for a while will also assist us because there's going to be things that are going to come up in terms of features, something that works or, you know, we'd like to augment. So I think that's beneficial, but at some point, the town should take this over if we choose to utilize it going forward. So
if it's as good as it looks, I agree with you, but We have to introduce it to the people. I'm guessing we have to run, if you would, parallel programs for a while until everybody gets used to the new one. And we understand, if you would, the hows and the how-tos on the new program. There's going to have to be some instruction. I'm sure there'll be some problems that John can get in there and resolve and so on. But I think it's going to take a while to transition entirely over to this program and say, this is it. This is our baby now.
Well, when you say parallel, what do you mean by parallel? Because
We have a system now that we use. It's a spreadsheet system, but everybody knows the inputs, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I guess I take exception to that because this is going to be a separate thing. The CIP is still going to be done by the planning board. So this is something outside of that particular process. This will not take the place of the CIP done by the planning board.
Okay, fine.
Those are two different, in my eyes, those are two different things.
Okay, that's fine, but I guess that just shows that, you know, it's part of, we don't know enough about it to know enough about it. So we need to express that somehow.
Okay. Well, maybe in terms of, and I'm not sure, some people are comfortable with spreadsheets, some people are not. So I'm not sure what the best way to get this out so people can take a look at it. I believe John could maybe create PDFs of each page so you can take a look at how that particular thing works. If people are comfortable with, you know, Excel, maybe they can take a look at it as an Excel spreadsheet. I'm not sure how to proceed. I guess I would take direction.
We'll be using it when we talk. We'll be using it when we talk about the Town Hall Renovation Commission too, so they can actually see it at work while we're discussing too. But I think John has something to say as well.
Yeah, a couple of things. First, in talking about the CIP, from the state statute 674:5, the sole purpose and effect of the capital program shall be to aid the mayor or selectmen and the budget committee in their consideration of the annual budget.
Yep.
That's the sole purpose. It is not the plan of the select board. The CIP is not the plan of the select board. So this planning tool that's being suggested would be the plan of the select board. I don't know if I emphasized it enough last time, but what is being presented is just a planning tool, not a plan. Yes, it is populated with dates and figures. Almost all of them came from the CIP. There are others that we added, but that's just a straw man. That's a starting point. And that can be changed. At the last time that this was presented, there were two features that were suggested for additions. One was somebody asked, so what is the total of the current cost for all of the funds that you have listed? And I realized, oh, it doesn't do that. Well, it does that now. And it does that with some options. So that's why I think it's useful for me to be presenting it and to see what people want to do with it so that I can then alter it so that it better does or answers things that I didn't think of. If you're talking about how to present it to other people, like say department heads, if they want to learn about it, I think the most effective way would be, again, a Zoom meeting where the spreadsheet is shared. Because that's about the closest you can get to sitting down side by side with me with the spreadsheet on my screen and someone sitting next to me and asking. And we can do that in Zoom where, as long as it's not 100 people, where people can ask, so that part over there, and what if we were to change this and so forth. And I can repeat that for as many small groups as you want to put together. So that's my take.
Okay.
So is the select board amenable to moving forward with this particular tool?
Yeah, I am.
So if that's, I don't know if we need a motion, but
We're not adopting anything. We're not changing anything. We're just using a tool so we can figure out
using a
numbers.
tool, yeah. So I think in terms of the process of what John just laid out, I think we have to sit down with the department heads and go through each one of those particular items and find out if we needed more information about it, if we need more updated prices. Then if we go through the process, select board has to sit down and find out, what are we going to be spending our money on? What are we going to be saving for? And then kind of codify in terms of, well, we can't afford that particular, whatever it is, but we want to really do it. So we have to push it out a little bit longer. So I think that's a process that we have to initiate with the department heads to go through each one of those particular items. And I don't know if you remember from the presentation, there's some items that the THRC put on that particular list that weren't on the CIP.
Right.
So we have to go through each one of those things. And I think this is going to be an iterative process because we're going to find things that, okay, well, that sounds good, but we need more information and we need to send somebody off to find out, whatever that information is we're looking for, an updated price. I think one of the things John put on the spreadsheet is, in terms of, what is this number? This is from a bid from so-and-so, or this is our best guess based on the information we have. So we can go through those, and as we kind of get more information and we're comfortable with that particular number, put that in the sheet and say, okay, this is something we want to save for, or this is something we want to do in the interim, and how are we going to pay for it? So.
What numbers are in this system now? Is it just the CIP numbers?
For every item that's in the CIP has been entered into this. In addition, this covers some funds that are not in the CIP, like accrued benefits. So for accrued benefits, I just put in the average of the last 10 years, rounded up to integer $15,000. For the town buildings items that were listed, that were added, some of those came from the assessments that we got from, like for the town hall assessment. Some of them came from just when I called Steve and asked about town buildings, and off the top of his head, he gave me what he thought it would cost for some of those small items. And truthfully, probably the weakest, there were some previously mentioned tasks to be done at the public safety complex, some energy efficiency improvements, and I just made a guess to get a number in. And those are the numbers that are there now. I think that at worst, they're what construction people would call a rough order of magnitude. Which is like minus 50%, plus 50%.
We used to call them WAGs when I was in the
WAG,
construction
exactly.
business.
Swag.
The WAG.
Okay.
So going forward, we're willing to give this a try, see how it works. And if anyone has any questions, Mr. Tappan is willing to share that through a Zoom meeting. Is that correct?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Great.
You're not signing any contract. I'm not a software.
Nope. If we like it, great. We don't. I mean, I think that's the great thing. And Mr. Tappan's been willing to adjust as we see fit. So I think that's really fabulous. And I can't imagine what it would cost if we had to pay for it. So thank you.
So let us, what does the board think in terms of setting up meetings? Do we want to have a meeting with all the department heads all at once and go through items as we go? Or you want to set up a meeting with like the fire chief first and then police chief next, or how you want to do this?
I think it makes the most sense to set up individual meetings,
Okay.
Mr. Tappan. That way, for someone who has a lot of items in there, we'll call it the CIFP, then they take as much time as they need.
Okay. So how about if we start setting up meetings with each of the department heads to go over their particular items?
Who's going to be in those meetings? The department head and who?
the department head
Mr.
and the
Tappan.
bunch of us and Mr. Tappan.
Oh, I guess I wasn't intending for the select board to be in on these meetings.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yes. Yes, I think we should.
Where
we-
the department heads are going through it for the first time and maybe tweaking it. And then once Mr. Tappan's met with all the department heads,
Yeah,
then bring it back to the board.
Okay, all
I
right,
like
Feels
that
like that
idea.
would be a more efficient way to do it.
If
okay,
Mr. Tappan is willing to do, I think that makes sense.
all right. That sounds fine. I think just as
That's-
my concern would have been the select board needs to be involved when we start going through things, and because we need to determine, is this something we want to start saving for? Is this something that we think we should do? If it is, when are we going to do it? How much is it going to cost? So we need to be involved in those particular discussions.
Yeah, but I think the beauty of the thing is that you can put things in and take them out and see the differences in prices. So I think it makes sense to let them have a little bit of time to look at that and go, oh gosh, or just to make, those decisions within.
And one of the things that Mr. Tappan failed to share with you, he probably didn't want to scare you off. But the feature he's talked about that added up all the particular things that are on the list at the moment, they're over $11 million.
Yeah, and that's
So-
at today's prices, by the way.
Yeah, well, yeah, so, I don't think we can afford all that. So just be aware of that. So,
So we have to watch every single thing we're doing very carefully to make sure we're making the wisest choices in
Yep.
every area.
Yeah. Well, that's why I think the tool's good, because it'll tell you, you're out of your league here. You're trying to do too much and you don't have that much money. So,
Ruth, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I just wondered if maybe an initial meeting with all of the department heads, just to give us an overview of what this package is, just so we can at least see what it is and maybe have some idea. I mean, if for the library, right now I only have 3 things on the CIP, but we've got, bigger pictures too, just to give us an overview, and then you can have an individual meeting with each department head to talk about their particular needs.
Yeah,
Because I think my issues are much smaller than police chief, fire chief, highway.
that sounds
I
good.
think, yeah, I think that could be a good idea, because that would just be an introduction of what does the plan do? What are the pieces of it? How it works? And then separately meet with each department head separately, and then the board.
I think the more that we understand what each group is dealing with, and we understand, how much we all want to spend in each area, but then really understand what the town is facing, hopefully the better we start working together, making really good choices. So great idea.
Okay,
Excellent.
can we move on to the next subject?
I'd love to.
Good. Number 7.
Yeah, I
Julie
need my,
Glover, Town
I need
Administrator.
my screen share back, sorry.
So do I.
Guys, you're so sweet to humor me. Thank you. I do have a laptop I'm working on. I'll be up to speed soon, I promise.
Katrin, maybe you should get your kids to help you.
It's my daughter's laptop.
Oh,
We tried, but I, didn't have enough time today. Go ahead.
all right.
So Mike Lytle, who is a resident of Lee, reached out to me. His company, I believe they're in Salem, Extreme Networks, has about 5 employees that live in Lee and wanted to do a Day of Caring project here. So I pointed them in the direction of the Conservation Commission. And so they're very happy, I think, to have Extreme Networks agree to help them on May 6th. With a day of pulling garlic mustard, which is an invasive plant. So just wanted to let the board know that this was going to be going on. I've already received a certificate of insurance from Extreme Networks, so we're all set there. The Conservation Commission knows that they need to take a roll call of all the volunteers at the start of the day. So does the board have any questions?
I'm just excited. That's such a great thing to have happen. So thank you.
Anything else?
No, I'm
All
fine.
right.
Good.
Fantastic. Thank you. So our franchise agreement with Comcast is up May 9th. And I've been speaking with the attorney and with Jay Summers, who's the government representative for Comcast, about what we should do. And if you've had a chance to review all the documents, our attorney recommends that we enter into a franchise agreement amendment for a period of 10 years. And the reason that it's so long is actually to protect the town of Lee and subscribers who have cable television, because they think the attorneys, and they do this work all over the state, cable may be a dying breed, and they didn't want us to be in a situation where maybe we only had a 5-year agreement, and at the end of that, Comcast could decide that they just weren't going to provide cable services in the town. So that's why they're recommending a 10-year amendment to the current agreement. In addition, the FCC, federal government, always being smaller government's friend, changed the rules about the courtesy cable. I don't know if you're aware of this, but municipalities right now get free cable, free basic cable through the franchise agreement, but the FCC changed the rules about that. So along with this, we're going to have a separate courtesy cable television agreement so that remains in place. Even with that, they could start charging us for our free cable TV. I think that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 locations that currently have a television. One is here at the town offices. There's 2 in the police department, 1 at the fire department, and 1 in the highway department. And
Are those things that we use pretty regularly?
I think that the highway department likes to have it. They probably use it for weather.
Mm-hmm.
We will use it here when the governor has a press conference. I don't think that the police department uses theirs all too much, and I'm not sure about the fire department.
We use ours for the same press conferences, weather events.
Yeah.
Things of that nature.
I mean, it's nice to have it free. We may want to make different choices if we had to start paying the retail rate for it.
I know, I'm just thinking you get a lot of that on Wi-Fi as well. Like I've listened to a lot of press conferences with the governor.
Yeah.
With Wi-Fi, so.
Sure. I mean, but it's been
It's nicer
free.
to have it on. Yeah, free,
So,
absolutely.
Right. But there's no, I mean, that's the law now, so
Right.
there isn't anything we can do about it.
It's just hard because there's so many changes coming up with broadband and other things happening, and we've got cable companies coming in Durham and around us, and so it's
Right.
interesting timing.
Well, I think it's Atlantic Cable maybe has moved into Durham or Madbury or Barrington. It's possible to have 2 cable companies in one town.
Right.
So having this agreement with Comcast wouldn't preclude another cable company from coming in if they wanted to.
Okay, that's important to know. Thank you. And it sounded like we had only a very small number of households that were using there's a free service that was part of this. Maybe I didn't read that right.
I'm not aware of
That
that.
had a free cable, something. Okay,
The town municipal buildings have free cable.
right. Okay, I must have read that wrong.
Does the school get free cable, Julie?
Yes, I don't even know whether they use cable TV anymore.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. But yes, they're covered by this as well. The other thing that we need to talk about, and the board doesn't necessarily have to make a decision about that tonight, but Channel 13 has kind of gone the way of the dinosaur. We, to be honest, don't spend a whole lot of time updating content on Channel 13. Our equipment is very old, and as part of what they're going forward with, if we wanted to keep maintaining Channel 13, Comcast could decide to upgrade that to HD, which would be about $25,000, and then they would charge the users in Lee. It would just be a pass-through. In other words, Comcast wouldn't pay for it. They would just up everybody's cable rates in the town of Lee to pay for it. So.
Or we could Zoom, right?
Again,
Or we could Zoom and then upload the videos on YouTube.
well, the videos are on YouTube.
Right.
Right.
So that's pretty free. And our Zoom.
Right, so I think what we need to have is a conversation very soon about whether we want to pull the plug, no pun intended, on Channel 13. We really, if we're going to continue it, we should upgrade, and that's going to be tens of thousands of dollars in equipment on our end.
Do we get any kind of viewer information from that at all, Julie? How many viewers we get?
No, I mean, I can ask Comcast. I don't think there's any way to know who's tuning in, but I can tell you we never get questions about it. So I kind of, based on that, have to assume no one's looking at it, as we've been migrating more to newer technologies and moving things online. Plus, to be very honest, I mean, and again, this may be a different conversation or a conversation for another time. I spent some time talking with Ms. Casper about getting a Facebook presence for the town offices. And if we do that, you know, that's going to be somewhat labor intensive. So I think maybe we don't want to overburden ourselves with trying to put content in too many different places. I think we need to just recognize Channel 13's time has passed and we should move on to newer ways of communicating.
Julie, can you go over the franchise fee? Because right now we're at 3%, right?
Right, we're at 3% and we're just recommending to stay at 3%.
How much is that applicable to the town at this time?
You mean, so we get quarterly checks. I think they're somewhere still around $10,000 a quarter.
Okay, so about 40 a year.
40,000 a year. Remember though, that's just television. So as more and more people cut cable, that number is going to start to go down because we don't get anything from internet.
Or phone.
Or phone,
Yeah.
correct. It's just cable TV.
Okay. So this motion is just to authorize you to work. We still have to have a public hearing
Correct,
about this whole thing? Okay.
correct.
So all we're doing is authorizing you to work with the lawyers to do the agreement or the amendment, excuse me.
Right.
Okay.
It's to take the next step, yes.
Okay.
Because then after this, our attorneys send a series of questions to Comcast just to make sure that they're actually still following the franchise agreement that's in place.
Okay.
Which I'm sure they are, but it's part of the process.
Okay.
I need to read the motion.
Yes, please.
Okay, move to authorize the town administrator to work with the town's attorney and Comcast on an amendment to the cable television franchise agreement and a courtesy cable television agreement, and to schedule the required public hearing when appropriate. Can I
I'll
get a
second.
second? Oh, all right, I got a second.
You did.
Roll call vote. Selectman Bugby.
Yes.
Select person Casper.
Yes.
All right. Selectman Brown, yes.
All right.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Sorry. There's a lot of pages to this. All right, so you may recall that there was some discussion of recently of the town moving from providing a stipend to employees who require a cell phone as part of their jobs to providing town-owned cell phones in order to avoid some of the 91A issues that we were faced with recently. So what you have on the screen right now is our existing cell phone policy. And now this is the proposed cell phone policy, which expands by a great deal what we would be doing. So I haven't yet explored the cost to provide town-owned cell phones. I think there's somewhere between 7 and 10 employees that we would get town-owned cell phones for. But before I went too far with this, I wanted to find out whether the board is even interested in going down this road.
So basically,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. There
No,
you go.
go ahead.
Fine, I'll go. So
Yes.
I just want to know, in reading through all of this, it seems like if somebody has a cell phone that's town owned, all things having to do with the town need to be communicated on that phone and not on a personal phone. Otherwise you open up the RSA
Correct.
challenge. So yeah, I just don't know how, does that make sense? Is that something that people want to do? Have two phones?
I personally do not want to have two phones. I do not want a town-owned phone. And I think in talking with the attorney, and this was a couple of months ago, that in that case, maybe I could sign some kind of document that says, I understand that if I keep using my personal phone for town-owned business, it can be taken from me and data dumped. And I'm okay with that. I don't want to carry two phones.
So maybe have an option for people that did want to have them.
Right. But again, because of the recent 91A issues that we were faced with employees' personal cell phones, people started feeling, well, maybe I would rather have a town-owned cell phone and not open up my personal phone to that amount of scrutiny. So, for example, I have Verizon. I probably pay $40 or $50 a month for my Verizon service. I'm guessing that we could do better because we're a government, so we might get it for something less than that. But probably just for the purposes of this conversation, assume that you're looking at $40 a month for, I think 10 telephones is high. But like I said, somewhere around 7, 8, 9, 10 telephones per month.
It feels like it's our responsibility to, if we're asking people to do work on a phone and they don't want to use a personal phone to offer that. I think it would just be important to know if that's something people want.
Yes, and again, though, remember, if you read the policy, this isn't open to everyone. It's people whose
Right.
jobs require them
To use that
either
phone.
be out of an office a great deal of the time as a result of their job, or have to be contacted after hours. Again, this presents some challenges on the broken record on this, what the use of cell phones and technology means for non-exempt employees. So it's going to be a matter of training and constantly reinforcing the message, even if it's your personal cell phone, well, even if it's a town-owned cell phone. If it's after hours and you're a non-exempt employee, don't look at your email. Don't look at your email and don't answer your phone. Because then they're working and we have to pay them. So again, it's just kind of reinforcing that message. Plus, again, we've talked about this recently for all of us. We need to be able to disconnect. And I understand obviously that that's not just the town of Lee, that's a nationwide or a worldwide problem, but we do not all have to be constantly connected, and it's not good for anybody. So
I agree 100%.
So there's going to be some training, quite frankly, of employees on that and residents. It's not okay to contact somebody on a Saturday on their cell phone because you have a question. So we're going to, and we're going to need the board to support us on that when they get the angry email or the phone call. How come Julie wouldn't talk to me Sunday afternoon about, a tree that I think is a problem. So.
Yep.
I think the next step, if the board is interested in going in this direction, then I'll reach out to Verizon and get some more pricing information.
I have two things. One, I think we need to go back and find out if this $30 is applicable in terms of what we reimburse people for using their own cell phones. And my cell phone plan is a little bit more than $40. So we're saying that 3/4 of the time you're using your personal phone for town business. I don't think that's appropriate. So I think that needs to be relooked at. Second thing, I think the board needs to, and this policy talks about us authorizing people. I think we need to go back and look at who are we authorizing at the current time in terms of seeing who we're paying these particular reimbursements to. Because people's jobs change sometimes. And I think we just need to circle around. I don't mean like every year, maybe every couple of years or something like that. Just so we understand who's getting reimbursed and who isn't. Yeah. So like, you know, I understand Steve probably needs a phone. If he wants to do his personal phone, that's fine. But if a tree's down all across the road, he needs to be contacted. But other people, maybe it's nice that you can contact them via the cell phone, but maybe that's not required. So I think we need to circle around and look at those two barriers as well.
Okay, so for the next meeting, we'll put this on the agenda again, and I'll have a list of who's currently receiving a reimbursement. Who the department heads think, because we had a meeting a couple of weeks ago, who the department heads think should get a town-owned phone. And then I'll try to have some cost figures from Verizon by then.
Okay.
I know that in our house, we pay, I think it's, I don't know, $40 for the first plan, and then everybody after is $25, and that's unlimited talk and text. So is there any way we can offer a better deal for people if they, I don't know, something to look into, cell phone plans? And if the town's paying for it, can we do anything together? I don't know. Chief Johnsfield, did you have something you wanted to share? No. Okay.
Any other questions?
And I think the thing that you talked about, Julie, in terms of people's personal preference.
Yeah.
And I know many people, they'd rather, you know, I don't know if we sign the paper or whatever it is, they'd rather have just one phone than carry two around. They find that to be a pain. So
I will tell you, of the department heads, I think I'm unique.
Okay.
In my desire to not carry two phones.
Yep.
Is greater than my concern about having my personal phone data dumped.
And I think we have a responsibility to offer that to people, and you know, if that's something that they want to do, I do think that if it's part of the job and we're asking you, you shouldn't have to provide your own phone. So if you would like the town to provide a phone, I think that does make sense.
Yep. Good.
Plus I have trouble
Are we
keeping
done?
track of one phone. Yes.
Okay, we're at miscellaneous, whoever she is.
Consent agenda.
Right. Motion to accept the consent agenda as presented. So I make a motion to accept the
Second that motion for you.
Yeah, you get to do it. He never hears me.
I know, but he'll hear me that
he'll
one
hear my
time too.
seconds.
No, that's not true that I never hear you. Sometimes I do, but for
Okay.
the most part. Okay, so let's see, let's do a roll call vote. Select person Casper,
Yes.
Selectman Bugby,
Yes.
Selectman Brown, yes, motion passes. Miscellaneous unfinished business, anything, anyone, anybody?
Can we have Steve Bullock talk to us, please?
So on Friday, Joe got hired at the town of Barrington as their lead transfer station attendant. His start date is in about 3 weeks. We're probably going to struggle to replace him, considering Dover, Durham has had a job posted for 6 months, and Epping has had a job posted for well over a year. the reason Barrington did so well is they offer benefits for their part-time employees, at least that employee. So that employee, Joe, is going to work 30 hours a week and get full benefits, state retirement, paid time off, 85% paid insurance. My concern would be filling the position with somebody good. I don't want to take the first person that applies for it, even though we're shorthanded, because I don't want to deal with those problems that we might end up with down the road. So my suggestion might be to try to entice somebody a little bit more and offer a prorated time off type package. So, not obviously what everyone else gets, but like maybe a quarter, a third of the time off that a normal employee would accrue.
Seemed like he was most concerned about the health benefits package.
He was, but that, would double the cost of the position if you gave someone health insurance. It's not feasible. It's not in any remotely near any budget. And that's like the only place I've ever heard of ever that offers a part-timer retirement system and full benefits like that with insurance.
I was actually thinking about contacting them and figuring out how they made that happen and what, if there's something that we.
So I asked.
Good.
It used to be a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
They are only open in their transfer station from 1 to 6 on Tuesdays, 1 to 6 on Thursdays, and then 10 hours on Saturday.
Okay.
And that's only in the summer. In the wintertime, they're only open on Tuesdays and Saturdays.
Wow.
So they didn't need a 40-hour-a-week position. And they took a guy who was full-time, cut his hours, but kept it. And then they just, for some reason, decided they didn't want to get rid of the benefits package with it when that person stopped working there. And they posted this new one.
The other thing is and Katrin, you weren't here, maybe you do know about it, but at one point we had an employee that was in, I think he was working 30 hours when we offered benefits, and he did, take advantage of that particular thing. That's still on the books. But my concern after speaking with Steve is, other places are having a hard time filling these people. He also has a particular one of his employees out for an extended period of time. So things are getting very tight. And the employment pool is very tight for those kind of positions. They extended the unemployment for through September. So he's going to have a difficult time. And I think one of the things that Steve brought up is maybe we cut the hours in the transfer station if he can't find anybody. But I think the board needs to discuss this in terms of, can we offer something that could, differentiate us between, other places? I don't think we can afford, another full-time person there with benefits, but is there some other thing we can do to give some incentive for somebody to say, hey, well, maybe I'll go to work for them instead of, working for Durham or Epping or something like that. So
I was asking too about outside the box thinking for hiring. I came from Work Opportunities Unlimited. That was a company that's entire purpose was outside the box, how to look at hiring differently. And they work with folk rehab and some other areas that have, have found some great matches. And I'm just wondering, have we ever utilized that as a town? Have we looked into?
I don't think so.
Well, I would love to at least ask some questions and get some ideas. I think, when I worked, I would have loved to have had some of these positions that, when I was working with them that we're looking for to hire, because we have people that would be great matches. I don't know what who they're working with right now and what they have, but at least it's another option of, that also pays a work opportunity tax credit, which means that up to 40% of that person's salary for the first year is paid for. You don't even have to pay for it because you're having sometimes you have someone, you can have somebody that helps make that job transition easier. So it's an option. You have to be flexible and say what you need and what you really want and make sure you're getting exactly that and not something else. So I could absolutely help look into that.
Okay. Is that something you can work with Steve and this?
Yeah. I'll definitely come talk to Steve and see what we can do.
Barrington had 10 people apply for that job where other towns next door can't get anybody. So that's how
Right,
much
proving that healthcare is important.
it was.
So I think we can try to add up other things. I just think that it's kind of clear that's where we keep getting stuck.
And Steve, remind me, we're paying more than what those two other places are offering, right? For help?
Yeah, by probably almost $2 an hour.
Yeah,
So,
I think healthcare is our issue.
yeah.
And
I'm
it's
surprised
not-
more people don't take care of the advantage of the marketplace, since that particular job we don't offer benefits. They should be able to get insurance through the marketplace at a relatively cheap rate. So I'm wondering why people don't even do that. That's like ridiculous.
I think a lot of it has to do with they don't want to deal with people's trash. Because it's not
Okay.
just this area problem. If you go, Julie brought it up the other night, if you go on New Hampshire Municipal and look, there's got to be 10 or 12 transfer station jobs posted throughout the state that don't get filled.
Hmm.
It's
Well,
just,
Don't tell them it's in the transfer station, Steve. Tell them they're in the removals business or something like that. Something, a sanitary engineer. There you go.
yeah.
I would love to come chat with you, Steve, and see if we can figure out some other ideas. And maybe we do have to open ourselves up to realizing that, it might be a different market than we had a few years ago.
Yeah.
The market's definitely changed, and I think we need to adapt to whatever that is to get the people so that we can continue to provide the services. Because he's down in terms of people. There's, I think, what did you say? There was only one person there last week or something in one of those days?
So if the person who's out doesn't come back by the time Joe leaves, that'll leave me with one full-timer, a part-timer who's only willing to work like 16 hours a week. So
And for me,
I worked in there for 8 hours Thursday. As it is right now, to make up for it, we go in every day after they're open and pack the bins for chips, so he doesn't have to try to do that as well when he's opening alone. And I know the board had said they didn't want people working more than 12-hour days in there, or 10-hour days, but Chip's working 12s because I don't have a choice right now.
Yeah.
Right. So we need to fix this quick.
Yeah.
This is something that's really.
Just make it an organic processing engineer.
Well, for me, it's a safety issue. When you've got one person there while themselves, there's a lot of dangerous equipment there. And if he gets injured and nobody knows that he's injured, and then he sits there and, that's not good.
No,
So,
I agree.
And the ability to do the job we need at the transfer station isn't possible if we don't have enough bodies in there. I mean, that's
Qualified
decreasing the
bodies.
value of what we're recycling. It makes everything challenging. So I think we need to manage this quickly.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you, Katrin.
Okay, we're gonna move on. Any miscellaneous unfinished business?
No.
In that case, I'm gonna make a motion to enter into non-public session per New Hampshire RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2, sub A, sub C, roll call vote required.
Second.
Selectman Bugby.
You need a second.
Oh,
Second.
sorry, second.
Second.
Selectman Bugby.
Yes.
Thank you. Select person Casper.
Thank you. Yes.
Selectman Brown, yes.
Hey, I'd like to just,
Pick one.
He never hears me, so he must have heard you.
Roll call vote, Selectman Bugby.
Yes.
Select person Casper.
Yes.
Selectman Brown, yes.
all right,
We are in public. So now,
wait a minute.
as it says,